What's up, everyone? Happy Friday. Welcome back to the Huddle. This is Faith Suggs, your host, of course, and we are live on Friday morning at E360 TV. Again, I'm Faith Suggs, former Duke women's basketball graduate and currently CEO and founder of my Brand by Faith social media company, dedicated to telling stories of our clients. And of course, we go into NIL and we have a wonderful couple shows. We're on to our 11th, I believe, today. So how lucky are we to be back here healthy and happy on a Friday morning? To those of you who are new, welcome. To those of you coming back, hey, we are happy to see you again, of course. But if you are new, this is E360 TV, and our main platform is Faith Family Focus, which I do with my dad, former NFL player with the New York Jets and the Cincinnati Bengals, Schaefer Suggs. And now he works with the NFLPA, NFL Former Players Chicago, RPFPC. If you guys see us on Mondays and Wednesdays, you guys know it's a handful, but it's a great time. We'll be back live on Monday with a new series we have called Surviving the Holiday Season. And we talked about, spending the holidays alone last one, which actually would turn out to be a really great show. So if you missed it, of course, just scroll down on Facebook. We are live, though, on E360 TV. And the Huddle started about 11 shows ago, which is crazy to think about now. And we've had a wonderful group of guests with Ashley Nicole Moss with Sports Illustrated, Shane Southwood with Kansas State, Nolan Smith with Duke basketball, and of course, so many more. We had Shayna Humphreys from Philadelphia, Fox News, and then, of course, Abby Duncan, Paralympic gold medalist out of Rio in 2016. So we've been really lucky and blessed to have a lot of amazing guests so far. And we, of course, won't let you down with today's shows either. And I'll get into that in a second. But if you are new, welcome. Faith Family Focus is hosted Monday and Wednesdays, but on Fridays, we do the Huddle right here on E360 TV. Our main platform, if you hear me say it a lot, is because we're so thankful for them and to be working with them for so long. And then again, of course, we are live at 9:04 a.m. Central Time. This time zone always throws me off, y'all. But we are 9:04 a.m. Central, 10:04 a.m. Eastern. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're here on E360 TV, Facebook, Apple TV, Roku. If you can name it, we're on it. So we are really excited to kind of have an amazing guest today. If you missed last show, scroll down. Of course, you'll catch up with us. But today we have Natalie White. For those of you who follow me on social media, they know I work with Moolah Kicks. If you guys haven't heard it, you're missing out, of course, which everybody's missing out if they don't know about Moolah Kicks. Natalie White is the founder, the mom, the owner, the everything it is about Moolah Kicks. She created it. And of course, we're going to talk with Natalie a little bit about her story. So I won't give you, too much of information on Natalie because she's going to talk about herself here. But it's been a really great experience so far. If those of you don't know, there are no women's basketball shoes at all. I have to say that leading up to this point now. People don't know that. I actually got in an argument the other day with one of my friends, and he was like, yes, there are. And I was like, no, there were not. Candace Parker's shoe was not a woman's shoe. And so we got into a little argument. I'm actually happy to have Natalie here. And for those of you following me on social media, you've been following along the great story of Moolah Kicks. And this, I don't want to, give it away too much because she, talks about it so well. And I won't do it justice. So after this quick break, we'll have Natalie on and we'll dive into her story, but don't go away. And while we're on break, check out moolahkicks.com and also Dick's Sporting Goods where you can find them. Yo, Nat, what's up?
What's up, Faith? Thank you for bringing me on today.
Of course. Sorry, I'm thirsty. Sometimes when I do my intro, I run out of. Normally, I have my cup of coffee, but I'm on the road.
Yeah, you're prepared.
Yeah. So what's up? Where are you at? Talk to us a little bit about what's going on.
Right now, typically, I'm in New York City. First of all, thanks for having me on. Typically, I'm based in New York City, but right now, exciting times this week. I just accepted a shipment of about 2,000 pairs of Moolah Kicks. And they now are in my parents' garage, actually, if you can believe it. So I'm in South Jersey, true founder, startup life, actually housing these things in my parents' garage.
That's so awesome. And I saw the boxes. I wish I could show people the pictures, but it made me laugh when I woke up the next morning looking at it because I was like, the process to get these shoes here has been amazingly hard.
Oh, yeah. Yes. On Tuesday, Old Dominion backed up their truck all the way down the 16-wheeler. And I was unloading pallets just into the garage, stacking them all the way up to the ceiling. We're now there's like little aisles, and I walk through what used to be my parents' garage, but is now the Moolah Kicks warehouse.
Yeah, it's our warehouse.
Exactly.
Good one. So let's dive a little bit into who you are first, because you are Moolah Cooks at the end of the day, and you started it. And so talk to us a little bit. So who was Natalie White as a kid? What was your childhood like? What was growing up? Talk to us a little bit about, give us the rundown.
Yeah, if you listen to any of the brand videos, you'll hear me kind of give the pitch on why I started it, who I am, and I'm happy to go into that. If you want to picture me at 5, I'm wearing basketball shorts. I'm wearing like a Roxy t-shirt that doesn't match. I'm wearing Jordan Flights, if you guys remember what those chunky things are. I was a skateboarder, a baller, a flag football player in elementary school. And then, as I got older, I really dove into basketball. I played on some of the top travel teams in New York City. Played on Team Prince basically my whole childhood, which is now Exodus, which is, a pretty well-known name. But back then it was Team Prince with the coaches of South Shore. And I think all through growing up, it was just so clear to see the gender differences between men's and women's, not even men's and women's, but girls and boys basketball, right? You're in 5th grade. We're in 5th, 6th grade, taking the van down to Georgia from New York. We get out to Peach State Classic, and I see that you walk in and the tickets are different prices for 6th grade boys versus 6th grade girls. I remember, getting different amounts of gear from the boys team and all of those things. But of course, the most impactful was that experience that didn't end in elementary school or middle school or high school and continued up until this year, where you walk into a footwear retailer and you see that there aren't any options for you if you're a female basketball player. You're forced to shop in the men's section, or if you're a very short point guard like myself at 5'4", you're forced to shop in the children's section for your sneakers. And so when I was in college, I went to Boston College. I didn't play. I'll blame it on being 5'4". I didn't play there. I always say, oh no, I get screened up top and there's no way. But yeah, so I didn't play. I played club. I managed the team. I played in the spring when there weren't enough players as like, pick up and whatnot. But I founded Moolah Kicks because women's basketball, of course, we needed our own sneaker, not only for social reasons, but also for performance reasons. Women's feet are different than men's in 5 places. And more than that, women's basketball needed a brand, not just a sneaker, but a brand that prioritizes our game, and where the same people buying it and growing this community are the ones benefiting from it. Because so often we see, the women's basketball community pour their money, pour their time into something, yet they're not the ones that are focused on, they're not the ones that are benefiting from it. So I'm just really excited to be heading up this brand that is doing so much, both from a purpose perspective and a performance perspective.
Yeah. And, it's hard to not, before we even get, even deeper into Moolah Kicks, because people think that we just covered a lot of it. We didn't, because there's so many layers to it. I mean, one question I always have asked my guests, and especially my New Yorkers, what about being from New York? Do you think influence who you are today, creating Moolah Kicks, the confidence that goes into all of this? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, for me, New York is, it's everything. People always ask why I don't have a New York accent. It's because I went to speech therapy when I was little. My parents wanted me to get rid of it. But if you can picture like a 5-year-old talking with a thick New York accent, that was me. I would say what New York has given me is that hustle, that attitude, and that ability to not really care what other people think of you.
Yeah.
You walk around, you could be dressed however, you could be looking however, no one in New York is going to look at you. I think it's just, people, it builds a confidence and an independence of thought. It builds, and for me, it built my basketball experience. New York basketball is what I grew up with. It's what I know. It's what I'm going to blame my bad jump shot and my good handles on, right? So that's how I play. That's the style, and that's why I do everything that is Moolah, because I think growing up in that, seeing New York City basketball you not only see the talent, but you also see what it means. And I think so many of the players that I played with suffered injuries that really were the reason they didn't play in college, because they suffered injuries and they couldn't afford to get the surgery to fix them.
Right.
And I don't think you realize how important that is and how important it is to have sneakers that can lend a hand in preventing that, unless you've experienced and you see what women's hoops really is and really means.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the injuries, because that's a big piece of all of this. And that's one of the biggest things I try to explain to people when I'm talking about, Moolah Kicks, but just also the discrepancies between women's basketball shoes and men's basketball shoes. And one of the things that we've known being women ballers and just being around the game is that ACLs, MCLs, meniscuses, I've seen femur
ankles,
at foot, if we're talking about plantar fasciitis and stuff like that we see on a regular, which is due to low arch.
Yeah.
It's hard not to, what we have tossed it up to be is women's hips, and like the anatomy of the woman body is the issue to the injuries, right? That's the reason they're happening.
It's always the woman. Let's blame the women's players. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's crazy. It is so crazy that don't get me started on the bigger issue there, but you're asking someone to operate in a system that wasn't built for them. Correct. And then you blame them when they're not doing how somebody else is doing in the system that was built for them. Yeah. So injuries in women's basketball and how Moolah Kicks can help obviously we can't go out and say it's going to stop you from tearing your ACL. However, we can say that women's feet and men's feet are different. We've known for so long that women are not scaled down versions of men. And the foot shape itself is different in 5 places. Now, the inside of sneakers, how they're built, like I said, I'm in Jersey right now, so I don't have it on me, but how they're built is around a skeleton of the foot, which is called the last. Oh, there we go. Faith's got me with the pictures.
Yeah.
So there you have basically that blue structure. That material is actually pulled over top of that blue structure on every single basketball sneaker that's ever made. Doesn't matter if it's a Kobe, doesn't matter if it's LeBron. Like, this is how sneakers are made in general. They pull that material over and then they construct the shoe together. So when they're making basketball sneakers that they relabel unisex, men, children's, whatever, they use a shape there, a blue shape. It's called last, that mirrors a man's foot.
Okay.
And when women put it on and they try to perform in equipment that's made for men, I always say, one game, it doesn't make a difference. If you wore socks for one game, it probably wouldn't make a difference. But when you wear it for your entire career, from the time you're 5 years old, now you're in college and you've practiced every day since, and you've been wearing equipment that doesn't fit your body, it actually starts to change the way you run, the way you operate, because you're kind of compensating for this equipment that doesn't fit you right.
Right. What's interesting about that is one of the things I've heard you say is that your shoes shouldn't hurt your feet when you break them in. And I feel like we have normalized that so much, especially on the women's side. Like, hey, you guys got new shoes, they're in your lockers. Make sure you guys wear them for the first 3 practices leading up to the game. Like, because you got to break them in. And then your feet burn and hurt and your arch is hurting. Talk to us a little bit about your perspective on that a little bit when we talk about even all the, research and education you've done around women's foot.
I think the best explanation is you guys just try them. I mean, you put them on and every single person who's put them on, it's like their mind has exploded. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you don't need to break them in. I mean, your feet don't burn. That's not normal, right? Like, it is not normal. My toes would bump right up against the top of the sneaker in children's shoes because they're too wide. I know almost a lot of the BC team, when Boston College was with the previous sponsor, they all had matching bruises on their big toe because when they stopped to plant, their foot would slide forward and hit the front of the shoe. And that is not normal. Like, we should not be, there's nothing you can do, right? I mean, it's hard to go out and make a sneaker, so it's not like there's any substitute. But now I'm very glad that there is, and people can put on a sneaker and be like, wow, I don't need to break these in. I could lace these up and play right now in a game.
Right. You know what's interesting is I listened to this and my Moolah Kicks are in the mail. I can't wait to like try them on and everything, even though I don't hoop no more. I shouldn't hoop anymore. That's what I should say. Is like the very feeling. I'm telling you right now, we have normalized so much the pain of wearing and breaking in shoes. Like, how do you convince women to make the transition, to make the jump? Like, I know you say just try them, but like, what is one of the things you think is helping women buy in and get on board with this mission?
I think we really talk to the leaders in women's basketball, and we talk to some of the big players who are concerned about what their future looks like and who want to build a brighter future for themselves and for women's basketball. As you get older, you can see sometimes it looks to be like there's a cap on opportunity for what your professional career might look like, for what your college career might look like. Excited that we have NIL stuff going on now, but in women's hoops, I think it's when you look forward, that vision isn't always what you wanted, right? And so I talk to a lot of those players and I say, hey, we're building something. We're going to work with us so that we can build a vision that you like, that you're proud of, that you want to be doing. And I think in that vein, we've got them wanting to build Moolah Kicks with us, with what we're doing in terms of purpose. And then the performance, putting on the sneaker, that needs no explanation at all, because they put it on. I even gave it to the two players who were playing in the Queen Me tournament in New York City, the one-on-one tournament. They put on samples that were not well made. They were kind of, they were fine. You could wear them twice tops because of the materials that were in them. They put them on as wear test samples, and they said, these were the best sneakers I've ever played in. And they put them on right for that tournament, right at the beginning, no warm up, and said, this was unbelievable, the cushion and the feeling. And so once you have those players putting it on and saying that, everybody says, well, yeah, I don't want my feet to bruise and burn. Like, let me try them.
It's one thing I've been thinking about is I look at the game today. I look at college athletes, I look at pro athletes, and you have the other brands, you have the big brands. And what a lot of the kids are doing right now is we've almost kind of gave up on the feeling that shoes would be super comfortable or molded directly to our feet. And we now are just like, screw it, let's just go for style. And so you see a lot of guys like wear two different kind of shoes, which is terrible for your body. Or you see the girls do it as well.
Yeah.
And it's like, now that we are, doing Moolah Kicks, now that Moolah Kicks is on the shelves, it's actually really inspiring because like you don't have to give up on that mindset of shoes being comfortable and shoes being for you, right? And then also they look good. Like, I've been talking to student athletes. This is their favorite, of course. They like these ones and they like the teal.
And the blue. Yeah. Do you want a picture of the blue ones?
Let me see if I can pull them up. I definitely have these ones too. Let me pull up the blue.
I have some blue downstairs. Oh, actually, I have some blue.
Right there.
Feet away. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that in a second. So one thing I wanted you to take us through is an entrepreneurial state, right? Like let's put Moolah Kicks to the side, right, for a second. Talk to us a little bit about who you were when you were like, yo, I have to create this brand. Like, I know we talked about confidence, but being a young woman trying to start and go toe to toe with one of the hardest, let's say, most competitive brands, right? Yeah. With Nike, Adidas, and all the basketball shoes that are created in the world, good and bad. Talk to us a little bit about your mindset and the process to go through that and kind of get started in an entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah. First and foremost, I'd like to say it's so completely different than what those brands have, because those brands don't care about you.
Yeah.
They don't care about players. They don't care about you. Like, at Dykeman, I was talking to one of the moms, and she walked. It was so funny. I told her I made women's basketball sneakers, and she walked me and her daughter and I think she had a son too, her daughter's son, over to the, it says, "We are Dykeman," whatever, as the ball, the sign. She goes, "You see that logo right there? They don't care about you. You get hurt, they don't care about you. You whatever, they don't care about you. If you don't make it to the league, they don't care about you." And that makes us so different than what any of those big brands are going for. And I can't even think of them or see them as competitors, because their purpose is not women's sports. None of them were built because they wanted to fuel the hype in women's sports, right. Which is exactly what we're doing. None of them have prioritized and cannot erase the years that they never made a women's basketball model, right? Like, those years will always live on for years that they just ignored this whole market and this problem despite knowing it exists. And I have to say, I just founded it because it needs to be a brand like Moolah Kicks, and the opportunity that is there within women's basketball needed to be uncovered and made to grow. And I felt like that was something that could only be done by someone who was a player and really committed to understanding, but also promoting the culture of women's basketball for what it is.
Yeah. And I think it's special because it's like, it's not an easy thing to do what you've done.
Oh, it's the hardest. It's not a t-shirt, like it's unbelievably tough, which is also why, I did it, because it took 2 years to build and to make this sneaker and to go through, making designs and linking up with the factory and developing and production and raising capital, and getting placements and getting deals and partnerships. But it's so hard that no one's gonna do it. I mean, it is just right. so hard that you're not too nervous about other people coming in.
Yeah. Well, take us back to that moment. So you made the decision, Moolah Kicks is going to be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Designing the shoe. You have no idea how to design shoes unless you have some hidden talent that I don't know about, that you know how to design shoes. How the heck did you get matched up with your designer, and then the steps leading that kind of just propelled into, our recent launch with this?
Yeah. So I knew no one when I wanted to start making these sneakers. I knew no one in footwear, no one really in sport. I mean, I knew people in basketball. Like, I know a lot of coaches, a lot of players, but no, I wasn't well connected at all. And so I was at Boston College and I said, okay, I'm starting this brand. It's Moolah Kicks. Here's what we got. Here's what we do. I just started doing anything I could and like everything that I could when I thought about it. So, okay, we need a font. We need a brand name. I talked to, his name's Steve Madison. He actually created the font for Microsoft. Nice. That's who made Moolah's font, and we own it. So we own all of our branding. I said, okay, it needs to be confident, bold, tough. Like, that is our font style. You see it today. I got matched up with advisors. I said, who do I know that knows somebody in footwear? And let me pitch them this idea. It ended up that there's a professor at Boston College. His name is John Fisher, and he is the first person I ever talked to about this idea. He was the CEO of Saucony until they sold to Stride Right.
Wow.
And he told me, all right, kid, your first step, you got to make the last, which I just explained is that blue structure. You need to make the last, and you need to make that fit for a woman's foot. I said, okay. So I went to the Boston College training department and I said, what does a woman's foot look like? I used to do physical therapy because I tore my ACL when I was in high school at Hospital for Special Surgery, where there is a trainer. Her name's Teresa. She's also a trainer for the New York Liberty. And over winter break, I went into Hospital for Special Surgery and I said, Teresa, they wouldn't let me back there. This was pre-COVID also, but they wouldn't even let me back pre-COVID. And so I kind of was like, no, I have an appointment, or like I forgot something. Like, I lied to get back into the physical therapy office, and I saw Teresa and I was like, oh my God, Teresa, like, I actually just came in to see you because I'm starting a whatever, as she's like working on a patient. And I pitched her the idea and just kind of passed through with her, said, hey, what do you think? Whatever. And started to get the DNA for what the inside of the sneaker would look like. Then, the stories go deep, but I'll keep them brief. Then the next step is I have this information. I need to actually make that mold.
Right.
So the number one company that makes that mold, their name are Jones and Vining. And that company is based out of Brockton, Massachusetts, which is about 40 minutes away from Boston College. So I called Jones and Vining over 25 times. I finally got on the phone with a guy by the name of Tom Iredale. And at that point, right, I'm a senior at BC and I have some research and an idea. And he's like, oh, geez, like this girl wants to make it last for a brand new company. Like, what in the world? So he said, fine, if you present me with all the research and what you want to do, like we'll help you make one. And I was in the first time I was in the office. I go into the office, I'm dressed in my sweater, I have my little bag, I borrowed my girlfriend's car to drive there, and the CEO of Jones Vining, which is the biggest last manufacturer, they provide last for Adidas, Nike, Under Armour, New Balance. I mean, everybody. They are the last supplier. Walks by and was kind of like, who are you? Right? Because I'm like, who are you? Who are you? Because there's like all these, there's no one that is my age or looks like me in that office ever, probably. Yeah. So he kind of comes by and he's like, oh, what, like, hi, I'm nice to meet you. I'm Jim Salzano. I'm the CEO. Like what brings you here? And I gave him the pitch, and it turns out Jim Salzano is one of the best people I've ever met in my life. He took an early bet on me, and he has been a key mentor now on our advisory board, introducing me to people, introduced me to his board members of Jones and Vining. He believed in us when I had nothing. And he's just been such an integral part in connecting me and continuing to advise me. So from there, right now I have these two good contacts. I have John from BC and Saucony telling me all the steps to get there. So I have at least a roadmap of how I get from idea to a sneaker. Mm-hmm. And then I have Jim, who knows the people who's still in the industry on the inside, saying, yeah, you know what? I do believe in you, and I'm going to put you in touch and put my name out there so that you can get linked up to these right people in the steps that you have to.
Right. You know, what's funny is like things happen for a reason. And that whole story is very much like you bumping into somebody that ends up being CEO that's like, yo, this is a great idea. So, okay, you have the idea, you have the last, the shoe is in process.
Oh, not even yet. No, the last takes 8 months. I mean, this process takes years. That's why people don't do it. It just takes years. Because it's so many, we're chugging the water, but it just takes years. I feel like that's really why people don't do it.
You know, it's interesting. Yeah, I don't think I could do it. One, because you have 8 months where people are telling you like, oh yeah, that's a cool idea. It makes sense. But in the back of their mind, they're thinking, you do know Nike's a multi-billion-dollar organization.
Oh, and that's where back of their mind, Faith, front of their tongue. I have people telling me this is stupid, this is whatever. Like so many people being like, you're making sweatshirts, you're not making, like, because we had some merch out, whatever, just to, pass the time as we're waiting for some of this stuff to be developed. Yeah, there were a lot of times where I got denied from every accelerator every like startup accelerator I applied to. I got denied from almost like every startup program that I applied to because they said that it was too hard to manufacture a sneaker and that like basically I could never achieve the volume that I'd have to, and they didn't believe that it would be able to go from where I was to volume. And they'd say,
like, how did you like say screw them? Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is not easy, and it's definitely not easy as a young woman. You know what I mean? Like, especially when I've just finished college too, right?
Because I was still in college for some of it, but who's telling me, Faith? I was on the phone with CEOs of a ton of different footwear brands.
Yeah.
Multiple. And I had told them my idea. I was open about it. I said, yeah, I'm starting this company, blah, blah, blah. They said, women's basketball, never going to work. And every time someone told me that, who knew nothing about women's basketball, I really felt like, oh my God, this is the exact reason it's going to work, because all of you say that it's never going to work. Like, they were so far rooted in, I think they just have been ignoring and like acting like this huge demographic of people. They've never seen a women's basketball game in New York on the street. You know, they've never seen it. And like, I think talking to them when they say no, that there's no market, I was beside myself being like, wow, now I really know I have to do this, because it's never going to get done if I don't do it.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is like the lack of respect for the women's game is something we talk about all the time. And it's something that we really pushed early on when we first started, you know, branding Moolah. And now we're more into like, yo, Moolah is what it is. You're just
exactly
this. But the very disrespect of the game is the reason why we've never had shoes.
Yes.
And the fact, it doesn't even make sense to me, because I know that there's so many women's basketball players out there all across the world. I know that. But when you don't have people in positions with Nike who played with the women's basketball or have related to the game, they don't see a benefit, like you said, to creating a women's basketball shoe. And also, if no one's ever done it before, why do we have to do it?
Right.
Nobody's complaining.
No, that's it. Exactly.
No one's complaining. So why should we have to do it? And so that to me is this is all so rooted. Yes, we've created the shoe. The shoe is great. Moolah is gonna kick ass, whatever. But it's also the community that you're building around the brand. And maybe you can dive a little bit into that. Something we're really proud of when we pitch kids who want to, you know, hey, be a part of this team. Why is the community just as strong as the shoe itself?
Because of what you just said, people haven't listened to women's basketball players because that voice hasn't been the loudest in the room.
Yeah.
Because it's not the highest paid in the room.
Yeah.
And so it continues this cycle where, oh, they're not the highest paid. Oh, we're not going to watch. I mean, it's kind of this cycle of like acting like women's basketball is somehow a JV version of men's.
Yes.
And what we're building with Moolah Kicks is a brand where you don't have to tell us that. And you don't have to ask for your voice to be heard.
Yeah.
You don't need to ask for products. You don't need to ask for recognition, ask for time, ask for things that are just cool in of themselves. That's what we're here to give to women's basketball. So it's about people leaning in and being excited about the Moolah Kicks brand and excited about the opportunities that can grow for themselves as they join in on the hype. But it's also about access and about knowledge and understanding and having your heart and purpose in the right place, trying to advance this group of women who have already advanced against every adversity thrown at them.
Yeah. Where do you see Moolah being in 2 years?
Hopefully on the feet of everybody who's hooping, you know, every age. Let's talk about college and all the way down to elementary school. We want everybody and anyone wearing Moolah Kicks.
Okay. So now I'm so excited to talk about this. Let's talk about Dick's Sporting Goods. Back to the day that you found out that it's possible to be in stores at, you know, one of the biggest sports retailers. I'm struggling today. One of the biggest sports stores in the planet.
Yep. Yesterday, Footwear News announced that Dick's Sporting Goods was the top sports retailer in the country. I think they just got that award. Don't quote me on that award, but they did get a big award from Footwear News yesterday. And Dick's Sporting Goods is the dream. I mean, they are where people go to start their season. They are hugely important in individuals' lives, in American life. Everybody knows what Dick's Sporting Goods is. Everyone starts their season there. Every player experiences picking out sneakers there. You know, typically we think of Foot Locker and Dick's Sporting Goods as the biggest retailers, of course. But I think Dick's Sporting Goods, as you know, is all encompassing, where you can buy a ball, you can buy your soccer cleats, you can buy, you know, you can buy everything there. So getting in Dick's Sporting Goods was always the long-term goal.
Right.
But I'd like to say nothing is clean when you're starting out. Like everything is a hustle. And so even it seems when I'm talking about starting the brand, every day is like that. Like it is always this problem that you don't know how to solve, and you're going to need to figure out how to solve it within 24 hours with nothing. And like, let's get it going. Let's use what we got. So with Dick's Sporting Goods, Faith was with us when we ran a pre-order campaign back in May. And that pre-order campaign did really well. And the people that were supporting us then, it was awesome because we didn't have very much to go off of. And we had so many people really excited. We raised about $30,000. It was unbelievable, but we were still short on where we needed to go in order to do this first run of 2,000 with how expensive international supply chain got with COVID. So costs kind of snuck up on us, and minimum order quantities also snuck up on us. And I had to get creative in how we're going to solve this problem. Now we have 30,000 in pre-orders, but not enough money to make it happen. So, what's the next step from here was pretty challenging. I was looking into next steps. We had been covered by the Boston Globe because I had talked on, it's always something like this. Like I was speaking on Clubhouse because I didn't know where to go. And so I'm doing everything I can every minute of the day. I'm talking on Clubhouse. A guy picks me up who knows somebody from the Globe. So I pitch the guy separately. The guy pitches the guy at the Globe. I talk to the guy at the Globe. I pitch the guy at the Globe. The guy at the Globe says, okay, we'll run a story. We end up running the story on the Globe. And that was a turning point for myself, for Moolah. When we got that first Globe article, I would really say everything changed in terms of legitimacy, in terms of traction. And there was an industry leader, Matt Powell, who works for the NPD group, and he does analytics behind footwear and kind of what the market trends are going to look like in the footwear industry. And he was quoted in the Boston Globe Journal, and he was actually interviewed by Michael Silverman, who was the author behind the article. And so when I didn't have enough orders, I said, well, we need to raise some money. We need to have traction. We need to know where these orders are going. And actually in one of the mornings, thanks for putting that one up there, Faith. That was actually the second one. They ended up covering us twice. But one morning, I know it's always crazy stories, so you guys are gonna have to bear with me. But one morning I get a call from my friend Rachel. Her family's from Ghana. And Rachel calls me and she says, Natalie, my mom just called me. She said you were on Good Morning America. I said, Rachel, I'm sorry. Send me the link. What do you mean I was on Good Morning America? Because I didn't know. I don't know I'm on Good Morning America. So she sends me this link, and her mom's just like, oh, hilarious, very funny. But she had confused me with a 12-year-old girl, okay, who had gone into a Dick's Sporting Goods and basically said there were no women's basketball sneakers. And that story was put on Good Morning America by Dick's Sporting Goods. And it was this piece that was sent to me. And she said, it was this girl, her name's Addie, and she was complaining that there were no sneakers for women's basketball players at Dick's Sporting Goods. And so then you see the CEO come on and talk about how much they're doing for women's sports. And I saw it and I said, oh my gosh, like their intentions are clear that they want more product for women. They want performance product for women. They are going to love this. When I saw that Good Morning America segment, I really said to myself, oh my gosh, this is perfect. This is exactly up their alley. So going back to the Globe article, I looked and said, who knows the CEO of Dick's Sporting Goods? And it was Matt Powell, who was quoted in that article. He knew her. And I said, she's going to love this. Can you please connect me? So he connected me, and I had a beautiful email written out, and I knew this was my shot. And I got a meeting with not her, but some of the other leaders at DSG, and I pitched them Moolah Kicks, and they said, wow, this sounds awesome. We'll get back to you. And I ended up continuing to share the story and share what we're doing and share where the sneakers are being manufactured and the quality and sending it and working with them. And I cannot say enough how dedicated and how much they understand the the female athlete, female sports, female performance sports. And I've just been blown away by their commitment and the fact that they, took a bet on Moolah Kicks, on an early brand, because they really value those female basketball players that walk in their doors and that experience.
Yeah. Well, okay. We're in stores, this happened November for people to like put this in perspective. So
we're in 140 Dick's stores across the country. To find the store closest to you, you can go on moolahkicks.com and type in your zip code, and then that'll direct you to, the store that it is closest to. But this is game changing because you walk in and that experience that we talked about in the beginning, where you walk in as a female baller, you don't see anything for yourself, that's over.
Yeah.
That transformative experience is over. And so long as Moolah Kicks is around, it will always be over. And I think that in of itself is something that we can be excited about.
You know what? And it's even like, it's more exciting for us who are like kind of like watching it unfold and have seen it from the very beginning. Cause like now we have these different color shoes, and you could talk to us a little bit about that as well. So ours, we have the leopard.
That's my favorite. Teal is like high school favorites. People in high school love that one.
Interesting. And then we have this one, the red, white, and blue. And then we have the OG whites over there on the right corner, which are
that's me with the white ones.
Yeah, the throwbacks.
Yeah, the white ones are classic.
That's so cool. So talk to us a little bit about, so you guys are female made.
Yep.
And then minority designed. Talk to us a little bit about change and implementing more than just, pushing the narrative for women, but pushing narrative for a bigger picture.
Yeah, I think basketball, as you know, is the intersection of so many identities. And so if we're in women's basketball, and we're in it for exactly what it is, celebrating exactly what it is, and trying to do everything we can to amplify opportunity within women's basketball. And that also means being very in tune to some of the social issues that women's basketball players face. It can't be ignored that, of course, all of us are women, but also so many players in women's basketball are Black, are LGBTQ, and have other cards sometimes that are stacked against them or not in their favor on the grander scheme of life. Yeah. And what's so important is that women's basketball is the intersection of all three of those identities, where so often you have whatever mix of gay women, gay Black women, white women, gay white men. I mean, you have everything, right? And so for us as a brand, it would kind of go without saying that if that's who you're serving, that's how your company needs to look.
Yeah. I think it's great because it's also authentic. And what we're doing now with NIL, with now that student athletes in college can make money off of working with brands, what you're building is something that is relatable to who is holding the game right now.
Exactly.
And what we've seen the WNBA push the envelope the last 2 years with working within social injustice, working within politics, working with healthcare, right? Working within everything that they have that we've been, watching crumble and burn as a society. Moolah Kicks is like that final puzzle piece to kind of be that voice for these young women when they're in college, now that they can have a voice.
And be a positive one.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, so often that has been part of this struggle. And I'm not going to speak for, I can't speak for all issues, but I can say that women's basketball as a whole, we've faced so many things outside of basketball. To come into this space, the last thing we need is to face more things in that safe space. and speaking out, like you said, on racial issues, on LGBTQ issues, on women's issues. Moolah Kicks is a brand where those are at the forefront of who we are and what we do. And our progress is also progress towards the intersection of those issues that exists in women's hoops.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a great, it's altogether wonderful. Like Moolah Kicks is a great idea in general, period. It's going to be an amazing hit with so many people, and it already is. But the community and the meaning and the mission statement behind it is what pushes it over the edge, because it is authentic and it is relatable to who is part of the game, not just who they think is part of the game, which is what they think would sell, right? That's what you think is no longer selling. The real is selling.
Yeah.
And that's what Moolah Kicks is doing. And it's all.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I think that really says it all. You just need to, how we've been creating this community is what separates us. When you say, hey, what made you feel confident enough to go against Nike, Adidas, Under Armour? And I say, we're not going against them at all. We're completely different. And I think the way you just said it shows how what we're building is different on its foundation than what any single model of sneaker could come out from another company. It's never going to have the future that is in your hands when you're buying a pair of Moolah Kicks.
How do you think Moolah Kicks is going to impact women's basketball shoes and basketball shoes in big brands moving forward?
There's eyes on it. So I want to see Moolah Kicks take off for obviously the work I put into the brand, for the women's basketball community. But it's also important that it does, because there's a lot of people looking at this, right? I know that for a fact. I've been told by a lot of companies, why would no one's going to make a women's basketball shoe now, because they can see how we do before putting that investment in. Yeah. And if people see see Moolah Kicks do well, that section will grow. And in that standpoint, it is not just about this brand, but it's about demonstrating to all of those people, to all of those brands, those organizations. We ask for more weights. We ask for, higher price tickets, for more people in the stands. Well, if that's the ask, here's the calling with Moolah Kicks to turn internally to the women's basketball community. And here's an opportunity to prove that those asks are valid, because look at how much change can really happen when we all come together. And so that's the importance I see here, where we lean into Moolah Kicks as women's basketball community. And what we see on the other side are more gear options, more footwear options from Moolah, but from other brands too, right? We're not trying to force anybody just to wear our sneakers. Hopefully there are alternative options, and to end up seeing then more traction in the women's market as a whole. Somebody's got to headline that sneaker. That's got to be somebody's shoe. That's got to go on more girls. And at the end of the day, making progress. It's not about making change overnight, but it's about making sure that this progress is here to stay.
Yeah. Well, we're nearing the end of the show, so I want to do a rapid fire question type thing to get the details out for people who, at the end of the day, we want to just summarize all together Moolah Kicks. Mm-hmm. How is Moolah Kicks different on the foot compared to a regular men's basketball sneaker?
It's higher on the arch. It's a little slimmer in width so that your foot doesn't hit the top. The toe's shaped slightly different, and the heel is thinner.
Okay. Are they light?
Oh my God.
Compared to, like, if you could think about a shoe, and I hate comparing them to men's basketball shoes. I'm trying to think, like LeBron's.
You don't even feel, they're so light. You wouldn't even register that you're holding a sneaker. They are very light, very, very light.
Once again, how do people get their pair of Moolah Kicks?
Online, hit dickssportinggoods.com/Moolah Kicks, and you guys will see the full assortment, more information on, our story, our videos, and I think you'll see they did a great, terrific job of showing women's basketball and showing our story as authentic as it is.
And then how can people best support Moolah Kicks going forward?
Buy your pair and share it. Like, tell everybody Moolah Kicks is the wave, because it's it's definitely, we're leaning into the community and relying on everybody to speak out about it, to get excited about it.
Awesome. All right. Well, Nat, I appreciate you joining me. Of course, we'll be on the call multiple times today with more Moolah business, but I really love to have you on and share the story of Moolah Kicks. And I'm sure everyone was really enjoying, learning.
Well, thank you for having me, Faith.
Of course, of course. Well, you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon. And of course, everyone, check out moolahkicks.com. And thank you again, everyone else, for joining us this Friday morning. Have a wonderful weekend. Most importantly, thank you to Amazon Fire, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Apple TV, and of course, our key platform out of Phoenix, Arizona, E360 TV. Again, this is The Huddle, presented by Faith Family Focus. Our goal is to enter the huddle as one person and leave, hopefully, a stronger, more inspired person as well through the stories we learn from our guests. And of course, you can catch us next Friday for The Huddle with another great guest. But of course, stop by on Monday and say hello to Schaefer Suggs and Faith Suggs with Faith Family Focus. We'll see you guys all next Monday. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend.